In the spring of 1922, on a remote farmstead deep in the Bavarian countryside, something was terribly wrong. The farmer, Andreas Gruber, had begun noticing things that made no sense. Footprints in the snow leading from the dark woods to his farmhouse. But here is what disturbed him most. There were no footprints leading away. Someone had walked to his door, but no one had walked back. Days later, 6 people would be dead. The killer would remain at the farm for nearly 4 days, moving among the bodies, feeding the cattle, cooking meals in the kitchen, and sleeping in the same house with the dead. More than a century later, no one has ever been brought to justice for what happened at Hinterkaifeck. This is the story of Germany's most infamous unsolved crime. The farmstead known as Hinterkaifeck sat about 70 kilometers north of Munich, isolated and surrounded by dense forest. It was not a place you stumbled upon. You had to know it was there. The nearest village of any size was Weidhofen, and even that was a long walk through the woods. The Gruber family had lived on this land for years, and by 1922, they were well known in the region. Andreas Gruber was 63 years old. He had a reputation as a harsh, difficult man, not well liked by his neighbors. His wife Cäzilia was 72. They lived at the farm with their widowed daughter Viktoria Gabriel, who was 35. Viktoria had moved back home after her husband Karl was declared dead during the First World War. With her came her 2 young children. Little Cäzilia, named after her grandmother, was 7 years old, and Joseph was just 2. The family needed help around the farm. They had a maid. But in the months before the murders, something happened that should have been a warning. The maid quit. She told people the house was haunted. She had heard strange sounds coming from the attic at night. Footsteps above her. Scratching. Movement. She was so terrified that she refused to return. The Grubers dismissed her fears. They hired a new maid. Her name was Maria Baumgartner. She was 44 years old, and she arrived at the farm on the worst possible day. March 31st, 1922. In the weeks before that day, Andreas Gruber had told his neighbors about a series of disturbing discoveries. One morning after a fresh snowfall, he found a set of footprints leading from the forest directly to the farm's machine room. But again, no footprints led back. It was as if whoever had walked there had simply vanished into thin air. He also found a newspaper from Munich lying on the property. No one in the family had ever subscribed to a Munich paper. They lived too far away. The paper was a mystery. Keys began disappearing around the farm. A door lock was found damaged. Andreas heard footsteps in the attic at night. He searched the attic and found nothing. But the sounds continued. A neighbor, concerned by Andreas's reports of strange activity, offered to lend him a gun. Andreas Gruber declined. He did not think he needed it. He was wrong. On the afternoon of March 31st, Maria Baumgartner arrived at Hinterkaifeck. Her sister dropped her off and later said that everything seemed normal. The family was going about their evening routine. That was the last time anyone outside the farm would see any of them alive. What happened next was pieced together by investigators based on the positions of the bodies, the blood patterns, and the one thing that made this case uniquely horrifying. The killer had not fled. The killer had stayed. Sometime on the evening of March 31st, the attack began. The perpetrator or perpetrators lured the family members into the barn one by one. The barn was connected to the main house by a covered passageway. The weapon was a mattock. A mattock is a farm tool similar to a pickaxe. It was found later in the barn's loft. It belonged to the family. The killer had used their own tool against them. Andreas Gruber was struck down first. Then his wife Cäzilia. Then their daughter Viktoria. Then 7-year-old little Cäzilia. One by one, they were led into the barn and bludgeoned to death. Their bodies were then stacked on top of one another and covered with hay. The 2 remaining victims were killed inside the main house. 2-year-old Joseph, still in his bed, and Maria Baumgartner, the new maid, in her room. The killer was efficient, brutal, and utterly unhurried. There were no signs of a struggle. No defensive wounds that would suggest any of the victims had fought back. They had been taken completely by surprise. And then the strangest part of the entire case began. After killing 6 people, the murderer did not run. He did not hide. He stayed at the farm for almost 4 full days. Investigators would later determine that during this time, the killer fed the cattle in the barn. He ate food from the kitchen. He lit fires in the fireplace to stay warm. Neighbors in the distance saw smoke rising from the chimney of the Gruber farm, and they saw the animals being tended, and so they assumed everything was fine. They had no idea that inside the house and barn lay the bodies of 6 murdered people, and that the figure moving around the property was the person who had killed them. The alarm was finally raised on April 4th. For several days, 7-year-old Cäzilia had not shown up at school. The mail carrier noticed letters piling up at the farm. A neighbor named Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who lived nearby, grew concerned. At around 3:30 in the afternoon, he sent his teenage son and his young stepson to check on the Gruber family. The boys returned and reported that no one answered the door at the main house, but the barn door was wide open. That was unusual. Schlittenbauer gathered 2 other men, Michael Pohl and Jacob Sigel, and the 3 of them walked to the farm. What they found in the barn was a scene of unimaginable horror. The bodies of Andreas, Cäzilia, Viktoria, and young Cäzilia were stacked beneath a layer of hay, their skulls crushed. Schlittenbauer then entered the house and discovered the bodies of Joseph and the maid. The police were called. From the beginning, the investigation was complicated by several factors. The crime scene had been contaminated. Schlittenbauer had moved through the house, touching things, possibly disturbing evidence. And the killer had lived at the farm for days, erasing whatever immediate forensic trail might have existed. Inspector George Reingruber arrived from Munich with a team from the Kriminalpolizei. They conducted autopsies right there at the farmhouse. The skulls of the 4 adult victims were removed and sent to Munich for further examination. More than 100 suspects would be questioned. But the case would never be solved. Who could have done this? Let us examine the main suspects. The first theory points to Karl Gabriel. He was Viktoria's husband, officially declared dead during the First World War. But some people in the village claimed that Karl had not actually died in the trenches. They said he had survived, fled to Russia, and years later returned to Bavaria in a jealous rage. Finding his wife living at her parents' farm with 2 children, including a son whose paternity was in question, he supposedly snapped. It is a dramatic theory, but there is no hard evidence Karl Gabriel survived the war. He was legally declared dead. His name is on the war memorial. Most historians dismiss this theory. Then there is Lorenz Schlittenbauer himself, the neighbor who discovered the bodies. Schlittenbauer was a widower. After his wife died in 1918, he had begun a relationship with Viktoria Gabriel. Many in the village believed that Schlittenbauer was the biological father of 2-year-old Joseph. His behavior on the day the bodies were found raised immediate suspicion. He had entered the house alone before the other men. He seemed to know exactly where to look. He touched the bodies. He was described by some as oddly calm for a man who had just discovered a mass murder. When questioned, he contradicted himself multiple times. But Schlittenbauer also showed signs of genuine grief. He cooperated with the investigation. And if he was the killer, why would he have stayed so close to the crime scene for days, acting normally, knowing his relationship with Viktoria made him an obvious suspect? The evidence against him is circumstantial. A darker theory suggests that the motive was not about jealousy or money at all. It was about shame. Rumors had circulated in the village that Andreas Gruber was engaged in an incestuous relationship with his own daughter Viktoria. Some whispered that Andreas, not Karl Gabriel and not Lorenz Schlittenbauer, was the real father of young Joseph. If true, it could explain why the entire family was targeted. Perhaps someone connected to Viktoria's dead husband discovered this secret. Or perhaps someone within the community decided that the Gruber family's sins required punishment of the most extreme kind. Other suspects have been proposed. The Bickler brothers were known criminals in the area, and some theorized they were responsible for a robbery gone wrong. Yet nothing of value was taken from the farm. Money was still in the house. Valuables were untouched. This was not a robbery. 2 brothers named Gump were also investigated. They had worked on the farm briefly. There were rumors they had been seen arguing with Andreas. But nothing was ever proven. A traveling handyman named Paul Mueller was questioned and released. A drifter named Anton Bickler was suspected but never charged. And then there is the most disturbing theory of all. The one suggested by the footprints in the snow, the sounds in the attic, the missing keys, the strange newspaper. Someone had been living in the attic of Hinterkaifeck, watching the family, learning their routines, waiting. The previous maid had heard the noises. Andreas had heard them too, but he had searched the attic and found nothing. Perhaps he had not searched carefully enough. Perhaps the killer was hiding in the attic the whole time, descending at night when the family slept, and then, on March 31st, descending one final time to kill. This theory fits the evidence better than any other. The footprints that led to the farm but never away. The noises in the attic that were heard by multiple people. The food eaten, the fires lit, the cattle fed in the days after the murders. A killer who had nowhere else to go. A killer who had been living in the shadows of the Gruber household for weeks or months, slowly gathering the courage to strike. The investigation dragged on for years. The Munich police pursued leads across Germany. Rewards were offered. Tips poured in. But no solid suspect ever emerged. Less than a year after the murders, the farmhouse was demolished. The authorities wanted to erase the memory. But memories do not erase so easily. A memorial shrine now stands at the site where the farm once stood. People still visit. They still wonder. More recently, in 2023, a group of students from the Munich Police Academy reopened the cold case as part of their training. Using modern forensic analysis, they examined old witness statements, crime scene photographs, and the surviving evidence. Their conclusion pointed toward Lorenz Schlittenbauer as the most likely suspect. The motive, they believed, was paternity. Schlittenbauer likely knew or suspected that Joseph was his son, and he may have wanted the child. Or he may have feared being exposed and financially ruined by acknowledgement of the child. But even with modern methods, the students admitted that the case could not be definitively solved. After more than a century, the trail has simply gone cold. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of the most haunting unsolved crimes in history. 6 people slaughtered on a remote farm. A killer who did not flee but stayed, living among the dead. Footprints in the snow that led one way and never returned. And a question that has echoed for over 100 years. Who was hiding in that attic? And why did they kill everyone at Hinterkaifeck? We may never know. But the mystery endures, as dark and impenetrable as the Bavarian forest that surrounded that lonely farm on the night of March 31, 1922.